Let's
Yeah.
go. All right, cool. We are back. Mr. Shaun Sargent from State and Mr. Maher Yassine.
How are you doing?
I'm very good, man. I'm very blessed. I'm great. I'm energized. I feel good. How you doing?
Pretty good. Always good when I see you and get to speak to you. So,
No, likewise. But I know that we've been talking and the things that we're saying are just so valuable. So let's just get really right into it on, what's going on, what's been happening. So as I told you, I was traveling for a few months and I wasn't taking any state at the time, and I still got my testosterone tested. And this is funny because I got my testosterone checked at a time when I wasn't taking it, right? And it was still higher than what it was before I started taking state 3, 4 years ago. So I was at an 860 by the American measurement in
wow.
2021, and I was 28 years old, right? So already the doctor was like, all right, you're higher than average, you're good. Now, the notion is that men's testosterone decreases after they get to 30, and we're on a steady decline since. I think this is now bullshit because I tested again at the age of 32 and I got an 889 by the American measurement, which was in Australian measurement was 30.8 out of 32. So I almost like blew the chart, no pun intended, like off, I blew it off the charts, man. And that's crazy to me to do that at 32 and still be able to train the way I train. And I know for a fact that it's to do with the product because after I got back on it, when about almost 3 weeks ago, within about 1 week, I noticed the difference right away. I was
Yeah.
a lot more sharper. My cognitive energy and focus was much higher. My training got intense. My body started looking better. And I'm able to do things like sprints. I'm 32. I can still sprint. These old legs are still moving. And that's with the EAAs and the creatine that I started taking as well. First time taking that. So run me through what's going on because I don't know which one it is. Is it is it the greens, the herbs, the caps, like the
Yeah.
tea? What's
Yeah.
going on?
Fantastic questions. And I mean, it's good that, A, that you've been on state for a while, then you went off it. And, for somebody of your age, it's not an uncommon outcome that you've had. The levels absolutely outstanding, and definitely that's pretty unique. But the concept of how you've been feeling is good. So when we first began State, we thought it was for guys getting older like myself. And as you say, as you get this notion of it, 30 your testosterone levels start to decline, and that's the stated norm. I'm not sure that I actually believe that, and there's some doctors out there who don't believe that either. The body is a complex organ, and so there's is when I first started state, it was about testosterone. Guys want testosterone. Give me something that's going to boost my testosterone. That's completely wrong. I was completely wrong about that, and the PhD scientist who actually helped us formulate the state educated me in this. I'm just a normal guy. It's not my background. So when I talk about these things, it's either through life lessons or talking to people who do know about it. So she said to me, testosterone's not the problem. There's a number of things that you need to address first before we even start talking about testosterone. And so this comes to your first point. What is going on with you? I mean, you're an entrepreneur, you're traveling, you've got the stresses of your business, your stresses of daily life, and so on. So your stress hormone levels are elevated. Now, when our forefathers were running around, avoiding saber-toothed tigers and stuff like that, we evolved through the fight or flight response. And that is acute stress. The stress hormones go up, creates energy in the body, goes to the muscles. We burn everything we can for fuel, and that fuel helps us to either fight or flee. Uh, at that point, nobody's interested in fornicating. Let's use the polite word. So, like, the body's evolved to prioritize stress hormone over sex hormone. So when stress hormone's present, sex hormone is not going to be as effective. and it binds to the same receptor sites and so on. So fast forward to today, the body doesn't differentiate between acute stress, where's the tiger, and chronic stress. Oh, I've got bills to pay. What's the kids doing? Da 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 da. So that's present in our bodies. And of course, then what happens is it gets prioritized over the testosterone. So for you, your testosterone could be here, but if your stress hormone's here, the gap is what creates things like libido and motivation and so on. So when we created the State for Men capsule in the first instance, what I learned from the science team was, first of all, before we do anything, we've got to get your stress levels under control. We've got to strengthen your adrenal glands because they're the things that produce the stress hormone. They also produce some of the precursors of testosterone too. And the materials for stress hormone and testosterone are the same, cholesterol. So if we're stressed out of our head, our body's building all of these stress hormones, and so it's not prioritizing testosterone. So you've got to get your stress hormones to come down.
All right.
When they do that, that gap gets bigger again. So even if your test levels were, let's say, 28 or 26 or 25, if your stress hormone's high, it's an irrelevant. So the State for Men capsules are designed to actually strengthen the adrenals, get your stress hormones under control, and
So,
then from that point,
okay, so which ingredients are responsible for getting your cortisol, optimized and your adrenals under control? And are those ingredients or those herbs found in the capsules only, or are they also in the tea? Because I know the tea has a herb that helps you, right?
yeah, I mean, there's no easy answer to any of that because the reality in all of these things is the body's an holistic organism. So when we're looking at, is it the capsules? Is it the superfood? Is it the tea? Is it the EAA creatine? What is it? It's all of it. And will it work on its own? Yeah, absolutely. We did the capsules for a long period of time before we did the superfood, and we did the superfood for a period of time before we did the tea. So basically, the capsules have something in it called ashwagandha. So that's very good at. I mean, it's an ancient
Yep.
herb which is well renowned for balancing the adrenals and so on. But then there are other herbs in there, such as you talk about the tea. You've got the Damiana leaf, you've got the fennel seed. We put more ashwagandha root in the tea too,
Right.
just because
Yep.
I don't think you can have too much of it. Ginseng, we've got ginseng in the state. We've got ginseng in the tea. These are things just to the body will regulate itself anyway. So you can, other than the minerals, which the body can't regulate, the herbs will find its own level. So your response will be different to my response because we're
Right.
different.
And
So
how long after consuming it, whether you're drinking like a cup of the tea or the capsules, does it start to do its job?
well, that's a great question. And I mean, for me, when I first did the crash test dummy on the capsules, it took me about a week. And, without being rude, let's say I woke up with some very, very strong signs that something was different in my body. Let's just say morning erections. And then, you get
That's crazy because like that doesn't happen as you get older. And I found that straight away. And a friend of mine, former football player, like 10-year veteran, woke up the next day after taking it and he said, I know it's this because I woke up ready to go.
yeah,
That's a
exactly.
that's a effect in 24 hours.
Yeah.
So like that is does it work at a subconscious level? Because
So, I mean, you asked so many really good questions. Um, yes, absolutely. I mean, there's always the placebo effect. That's a fact, and we've had this in the beginning. I just want to go back to that. Like you had a pretty instant effect. The football player had a pretty instant effect. It ain't a magic pill. And what we've been very keen to say to people who are interested in state is it doesn't work unless you put the work in. You're putting the work in.
yep.
No doubt the guy's putting the work in. And the herbs were clinically tested on humans, and that trial was 8 weeks. So we always try and manage people's expectations because there may be some guys who
But
have
you're
not
doing
looked.
it based on an 8 week trial, but it may not actually take 8 weeks. Like
No,
if we're living
it may
right
be
in this country,
12. It may be 12 weeks. And that's what I was saying, Maha, is everybody's different and everybody starts from a different baseline. You were looking after yourself, your diet was pretty good, you had some stress, but the baseline of your body didn't need a clean out. Well, if you're a 50-year-old guy who's a tradie or an office worker who's been eating junk food, quite a bit overweight, uh, down the pub drinking beer, then he's going to have a lot more to clean out
right?
before it can kick in. So we had one guy, very beautiful story. He was at 8 weeks and he said, mate, he goes, I'm obviously not like these superheroes that you normally deal with. I'm not feeling anything. And I said, well, just give it another box. Now, people say, oh, well, you're trying to sell me another box. It's like, I'd rather you didn't buy it. If you've got any doubts about it, which is coming back to your subconscious point of view, if you don't think it's going to work, don't buy it. Please move on, go somewhere else because you've got to have a positive mental attitude to
Mhm.
it. So I said to him, look, here's a box. Go for another box, go for 12 weeks. Literally 3 days after he got that third box, he said, well, yeah, he goes, it's the first time I've had an erection in 4 years.
Wow,
And it's
wow,
just mindset. So there's the mindset, but
yeah.
there's also, it takes time. And if you've lived a life where you've really hammered your body and you've not looked after yourself, of course it's going to take longer than somebody such as yourself who's really in it. And I think that's what we're sort of finding out, which is interesting too. We originally created it for me. I'm in my 50s.
Right, that I love about your story is that you created something for you, found that it works, right? And like you've got the energy of youth again
Exactly.
since I've known you, and so
Yeah.
works for others. And then like I noticed some of the ingredients like maca powder, if that's how you pronounce it, like that's
Yeah.
known to be good for your libido.
Yeah.
Moringa powder, like that's known to heal like so many. It has like 20 different healing properties if you just type the word in Google, right? Cleans out, I think, blood too, which is of course going to be important for libido.
And it's actually, I think when I was talking to you previously, it's actually, isn't it more powerful than Ozempic? Somebody told me it's 98% more powerful than Ozempic without the side effects.
Wow, probably. Wow.
So,
People need
I
to
mean,
know about that.
and I think that's where we sort of come from. In the state for men, it's herbs, all organic. We test it, we make it in Sydney, Australia, in a pharmaceutical grade lab. So everything's tested for purity, no contamination. And that's why we've been able to get the BSCG kite mark stamp, which is an American third-party testing body that tests things for the UFC and NFL and first responders. So you won't fail a P test. We can say that, but nobody believes it. So you give it to them to test, and they say, "Oh, you won't fail the P test," and it's great. So we do all of that. But herbs are, for as long as man has been on the planet, they've known about herbs.
They serve
And so,
mankind. They honestly
yeah.
serve mankind.
So we use herbs in it all because basically what we want to do is give the body what it knows. So you can have synthetic stuff. Like people talk to me about vitamins and vitamin C. Well, most vitamin C comes out of China and is synthetic ascorbic acid, which the body can't really absorb at all,
Heard about this, yeah.
and risk of contamination, failed sports tests, and so on and so on. So all of that, or do you eat an orange
Right.
or a lemon? And what else do you get? So we say in maca or moringa or honey goatweed, oh, it does this, this, and this. That's all we know about. But what if it did 100 other things? What if it's
Right.
synergistic?
Right. Yep.
When we did the state for men capsules, the whole point of the formula is it to be synergistic. So you start with the cortisol levels, then you go to the cinnamon for the blood sugar. So it actually improves blood sugar sensitivity, i.e., lowering insulin, so
Okay.
that there have been instances where people have really been able to manage their blood sugar resistance levels by taking it. And then after all of that, you get to the sex hormone. Then, back to your original question, and apologies, it's taken me a long while to get it. Then we decided, well, we need a superfood. We need a protein source for post workout or pre bed. But rather than just going down the traditional let's do whey, because whey is one of the most toxic
Yeah.
products you can
The
put in your
residue
body.
of like milk or something like that. It's the
Exactly.
throwaway stuff from milk.
Yeah. Yeah,
Something
well, the US FD, I don't know who, agricultural agent.
FDA.
No, no, the agricultural agency commissioned a report because their members were suffering the huge costs of getting rid of whey, surplus whey from cheese making. And so some superb management consultancy company, whose name I won't mention, came up with, oh, well, whey protein is high in, sorry, whey is high in protein. What if we dried it and marketed it to the bodybuilders because they're daft enough to take anything.
I've heard
Me,
about this.
when it came in, I was buying tubs of this stuff and upset gut and so on. I have nothing wrong with people making the choices. If you want to take whey protein and it works for you, go for it. But what we actually wanted to do was do something that was multifunctional. So we put in complete proteins like spirulina, which we've now changed for alfalfa.
Right.
Moringa is a protein source. Maca is a protein source. But as well as doing that, we added some adaptogenic herbs too, like things like Brussels sprouts.
I was
How
wondering why that's in there. I think Brussels sprouts is in there. Beetroot, beet
Yeah,
powder.
yeah,
What did
yeah.
like what?
Well, beetroot will help with the nitric oxide, so that opens and dilates the vessels as well as being a huge blood cleaner. And then your cruciferous,
So
like your Brussels sprouts,
sorry
your
to cut
broccoli.
you off. So now my understanding is that in order for you to have increased testosterone or increased libido or wake up with like a morning wood, so to speak, your body has to first go through this whole process of like cleansing the blood, opening up certain like organs and things, and making that operate at a higher level in order to get that. So that's technically the icing on the cake. And that means that my body has now cleaned out everything. My blood is good. I'm operating at a like high functioning level, which probably is why I'm also seeing that cognitive like enhancement as well, right? I'm assuming
Yeah.
it affects the brain. So that's crazy. That's great. I love that. And then I wanted to also touch on your sourcing because I know you once mentioned to me that you source everything from where it's most potent, right? And I know that it's
Right.
all made in Australia and certified organic, which I'm going to trust that more than most places in the world, especially in America, where everything, is organic or whatever it may be. So talk to me about your sourcing process and your manufacturing process because I feel like this plays a really big role. One, to justifying the price point that it is, frankly, to be honest with you, and two, why it works so well. So, is the ginseng really from Korea? Where's the moringa powder from? Is it from Africa? How did you put this all
Well,
together?
basically, my wife Sam is very big on all of this, and it came a while ago. We were looking at another product 10, 15 years ago that was produced in Australia around bergamot, which is a herb for the heart. And one of the scientists there discovered that bergamot from this place had effects on the heart, and bergamot from this other place didn't. And they came with it's a biosignature of herbs. So when I was reading Men's Health and I read that fenugreek actually boosts men's testosterone, I nipped down to the local health shop, bought a bag of fenugreek seeds, and was putting that in my smoothie. Smelt like a curry house and had no effect
Never smelled.
whatsoever.
Okay.
And then when we were talking to the science team when they were helping us create this, it came up again of the biosignature of herbs. So not all fenugreek elicits the response of optimizing testosterone and supporting testosterone. It's only from a certain place. So you've got products on the market which say, oh, we include fenugreek. Well, unless it's the specific area of fenugreek, we've got products that say, "Oh, we contain saffron, sorry, which is a known mood enhancer." Well, unless it's from a specific point in, I think it's Sri Lanka, ain't going to work. So, your point you make there, Maha, is um, like the sourcing is really, really, really important. It's not just whether it's organic or not, it's where does it come from the area that elicits these results. And what we've done within the state for men, particularly, is we source the exact herbs that we used in the clinical trials for humans and we put them in at the exact doses. Because what a lot of companies do is they'll take a headline figure and put a minuscule amount in because it's bloody expensive. And when we'd done our first batch of State for Men, and the product that we put in, the fenugreek product we put in, had increased in price rapidly. So the guys in the lab said, "Oh well, we've got a lookalike herb that we think will be really good, and it's a fifth of the price." And I said, "Okay, so does it work?" And he said, "Oh yeah, well we think it does." And I said, "No, no, 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 no. Think and do are different. Does it work? Can you guarantee me 100% if we put this lookalike herb in that it will work?" No. Okay, well don't do it. Yeah, but it's cheaper. It's like, I don't care. I want to be able to look at you in the eye or any of the customers and state community and say, we did the best we could. If there's something more we can do, we'll do it. But I'm taking this stuff for me, so I want it to work. A lot
Right.
of companies will say they'll pack it out and you see 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C. Sorry to pick on vitamin C, but it's and it's like you can't absorb all of that at once. So you take a multivit and you go to the bathroom and you're peeing brown because it's all coming out.
I gotta pick on you for why do you say vitamin and not vitamin?
Because I'm English and I'm a
Is
bogan
is that how they
baby.
say it? Vitamin.
Yeah. And my English isn't very good, even though I've spoken it most of my life.
You know what's the best part about this is because you created this product for you, you never created it with a commercial drive. It's not a commercialized product. It's literally meant to work on you. So if you commercialize that and it doesn't even work on you, it's defeated the whole purpose of everything you're doing, which is what
Yeah,
I
I mean,
love about the brand.
we looked at it. I mean, when we were producing it, the production team were like, "So, what's your price point, and where do you want to sell it?" And then and I said, "Well, what are you talking about this for?" Well, we want to know, so then we can work it back to what's the cost of production that we have to play with, and then we know what we can put in it and not. And I was like, "No, no, no, you're getting it wrong. If you could make the best product possible on the market to help me as a coming up for 50 at the time, man who flies around the world, has got executive stress, life stress, as well as getting older, what would you do? Oh, well, that would be so expensive. No, 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 forget it. We'll deal with that after we've come to what it would be.
Yeah.
So it completely blew their mind because it's a different way. Because normally you take cost of production and multiply it by 5 or 6 times to get your retail price, and then you've got your slice for your wholesale, slice for your distributor, which is why we just do direct to consumer. A, because we want to talk to our community. And if I can't speak to the community when I'm supplying them things and taking their money off them, who am I? It's an integrity of that message. I'm here to talk to people and to support best I can. So we put the best ingredients in that we could in the right amounts because a lot of companies will do these big figures of the cheap ingredients so people go, wow, that's amazing. And then the bits that work may not even be the bits that work in reality. And they put a small amount in. And I was looking at this the other day because you mentioned the EAAs and the creatine, which there's so much information out there now about creatine and how it's good for the cognitive health. A lot of the American football players are taking it for TBI, because that concussion in their game, I played it, so I know about concussions from gridiron.
Concussions.
Yeah, as well as I mean, you take a word that's been around forever, like concussion, and then you put a fancy term on it like TBI, traumatic brain injury, and it sounds more sexy and so on. But there's, a lot of them in the States are really, really suffering. Rugby
Yeah,
players
yeah.
too, veterans, the whole lot. But again, 90x% of creatine's made in China.
So does that make it ineffective?
Well, you don't know what you're getting. I have nothing against China at all. I mean,
No, but
been to
like where do you source creatine from that gives you that cognitive function? Where is it? Where in the world is what is creatine even formed from first? Then where in the world?
Well, creatine's in the muscle and in the brain. It's a volumizer and an energy producer, which is why they're getting massive results in Alzheimer's and brain related diseases now because the brain shrinks and the plasticity in the brain disappears. So by using the creatine, it volumizes the brain and allows it to function, the synapses to do what it does, which is why it's great for people who get old, but it's also good for people such as yourself because it goes into the muscle, volumizes the muscle. It comes from meat and other bits too. We get ours from Germany, the number one rated creatine product in the world is a product called Creapure, and
Okay.
we have been approved by Creapure to use that.
Yeah.
It's the first time ever when we've been making a product, we've had to actually submit an application to use the ingredient. They had to verify whether our brand was authentic enough to use it.
Wow.
And when Sam, my wife, was on a podcast yesterday with some guys out of Texas, they say it's not easily available in the US because it's expensive. It's
Mhm.
it's like the most expensive form. Another thing which I found out about creatine, bear in mind when creatine came out before you were born, I was getting my 5 kilo tubs of creatine and spooning it in. It oxidizes. So if you take the lid off your 5 kilo drum and it gets oxygen and it degrades, which is why we put ours in single serve sachets, so it's sealed and it keeps in the as much of the performance of that as you can.
I see.
So what we're trying to do there is again, we don't want to be a sports supplement company. It's everything's got to work together. So you've got the state ferment capsules, you've got the superfoods which clean the blood, take out excess estrogen, um, support the liver, support the ligament, support the gut health, because gut health's really important in this. If you've got too many toxins in your body and it goes through the liver, detoxifies, and then into your gut, if your gut health is poor and you're not eliminating that, before you know it, you're reabsorbing it and it's even more toxic. So that's been built to help the body get rid of stuff. So you've got the state for men that is optimizing the hormones and regulating the body. You've got the state superfood, which is supporting that with protein, and then the detox herbs and the stress hormone
Mhm.
herbs. And then we've got the EAA creatine, which is creatine to volumize the muscles, because there's a lot of work done by Gabrielle Lyon and Dr. Don Lehman now about muscle-centric living. And that's basically that the results show as you get older, you lose muscle mass. But the muscle, your body muscle, is the biggest glucose disposer mechanism in the body. So if you're eating a carb-rich diet, which most people do, and you don't have a lot of muscle, then of course you've got the insulin resistance, your body's pumping insulin out of the pancreas and so on. Whereas if you've got a glucose sink effectively in muscle, that's taking that glucose out of the bloodstream to use for energy, then they found that, they call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. So the more muscle you've got,
Yeah.
the better you are to deal with the excess blood glucose. So we wanted the creatine for athletic performance
Right.
and for the brain and so on. And then you say, well, what about the essential amino acids? A lot of people's diets are missing complete proteins. You eat an egg, perfect, complete protein. So people say, oh, I'm doing a gram of protein per lean pound of body mass. Well, if that's a vegan burger, and don't mean to upset vegans, I was vegan for a time, unless you combine the bits, the beans and the peas and the chickpeas and lentils in the right amount, you'll only absorb that protein to the lowest level of the essential amino acids available. So you could eat 100 grams of protein, but if it's only 20% efficient, you're only actually getting 20 grams of protein into the body.
Yeah.
So we came with the essential amino acids to say, okay, after training, give your body these aminos as a group of amino acids waiting to absorb and connect with the food that you eat, so you get a bigger protein
Can you
utilization.
can you also I know we got to wrap up here in about 4 minutes. So the last 2 points is just also the benefit of the tea, but then when it comes to consumption, can you mix everything? Can I take the greens with the EAAs, mix it together, boom, have the tea with
That's exactly what I do, and I mean it's interesting. I just read a study that said watermelon and watermelon juice are very um, amazing health. There's some amazing health things from that over and above hydration.
Wow.
So I put my greens and my EAAs post training with some watermelon juice. And then before I go to bed, about an hour and a half before I go to bed, another serve of greens, another sachet of EAAs and watermelon juice. So my body's got all of that stuff to go through night.
That's good.
They figure out if you get 40 grams of protein before bed, then the muscle repair and the muscle synthesis while you sleep is enhanced. So.
Wow. And do you take any type of protein powder, whether it's casein or anything like that, or just you just take straight state?
Steak with eggs. I mean, I
Ah,
eat
eggs. That's
about 12
okay.
eggs, 12 eggs
That's
a day.
and that's good for absorption.
No, it's good to get my protein in my height. It's complete. The egg is the perfect protein. So, 12 eggs, everyone worries. You need the cholesterol to build your sex hormones. So, like, I'm all about that. I love eggs anyway. So, I eat meat, fish, blah, blah, blah. But, make sure I get my eggs in on a daily basis. Again, not medical advice. This is just
Yeah,
Sean
yeah,
advice.
it's
Go,
great.
go and see a doctor and all of that stuff. And the tea.
Yeah, the tea. So now we know what the capsules do. We know what the powder does, acts as the detox as well with everything. And then the tea, was that just a cherry on top to make you horny? It's got horny goat weed in it, right? So that
Well, Well, basically, I love coffee. I've just had my espresso, but most coffee is riddled with mold and mycotoxins, and not just any toxins, but one of the most estrogenic toxins known to man. So, we get mold-free coffee, and I have a coffee, and coffee is good for you, but people are drinking moldy coffee, and it's screwing with their hormones. So we thought, okay, as well as if you have 5, 10, 15 cups, it's going to screw your adrenals. So what if we could create a tea that gave you something nice to drink without the mold and without screwing up your adrenals? Because there's no point trying to strengthen your adrenals at the beginning and screwing them up down the bottom. It's counterproductive.
so,
The tea was then also, as you say, with the ginseng, the horny goat weed, and the other bits in there, the Damiana was all designed to help the capsules. So your question in the beginning, which has taken me over 30 minutes to answer, is you can use them individually, that would be great, or you can combine them. They're designed to be combined because then you get a synergistic effect of one and one equals three, four, five, whatever. And that's in everything we do, there will be a synergistic effect.
wow. Man, thank you for answering all of these questions and giving me a lot of clarity and appreciate your time.
I feel like we could do another 15 hours, but it might
I
get boring.
know, I know, I know. All right, brother. Thank you, man. Let me
Thank you.